The shuttle from Earth landed on orbital station Harmony at exactly 600 hours. Sargent stood at the landing bay with his 4 arms crossed over his chest. His silver scales caught the light as he watched the door open. Behind him, his aide lieutenant held and waited quietly. Had trained soldiers from over 200 different species. He had seen the strongest warriors from across the galaxy walk through his barracks. He had broken all of them, every single one. It was his job, and he was very good at it. The Galactic Coalition Academy trusted him to turn soft recruits into hard soldiers. The shuttle door hissed open, and a small figure stepped out. Her name was. She was a human female standing only 1.6 meters tall. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail. Her dark eyes moved slowly across the landing bay, taking in every detail. She carried a single bag over her shoulder. Looked down at his. The screen showed her planet's classification. Sol 3, also known as Earth, Class 12. The words made him pause for a moment. Extreme gravity, oxygen-rich atmosphere with toxic pollutants, biosphere filled with predators, parasites, and deadly microorganisms, average surface temperature swings of over 50 degrees, violent weather patterns including hurricanes, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. And humans lived there. Not just lived, they thrived. They built cities and flew ships and somehow crawled their way into space despite their planet trying to kill them every single day. Another human, muttered two. Third won this training cycle. The other 2 did not complete training, sir, said quietly. One broke mentally. The other was sent home after an injury. Humans are fragile, said. They look soft, they break easily. But even as he said the words, something felt different about this one. The other human recruits had looked around with wide eyes and nervous movements when they arrived. They had flinched at the alien faces watching them. They had seemed small and scared. This one did not look scared at all. Walked toward the main processing area. She passed the environmental adaptation chamber without slowing down. This chamber was required for most species. The air on Harmony Station was carefully balanced for the comfort of many different aliens. Most new arrivals needed time to adjust. Stepped into her path. Recruit, you are required to enter the adaptation chamber. Stopped and looked up at him. She had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Was over 2 meters tall, and his 4 arms and silver scales made most recruits tremble, but simply looked at him like she was studying something mildly interesting. No, sir, she said, I do not need it. The air composition here is different from your. You will experience difficulty breathing and. The air here is thinner than Sol in summer, interrupted. The oxygen content is actually higher than what I am used to. I will manage. She walked around him and continued toward the barracks. Stood frozen for 3 full seconds. In 40 years of military service, no recruit had ever interrupted him. No recruit had ever walked away from him. He turned to, who was staring with wide eyes at the small human disappearing down the corridor. Sir, said slowly, should I report her for insubordination? Did not answer immediately. He was thinking about something his own trainer had told him many years ago. The most dangerous soldiers are not the ones who roar and charge. They are the quiet ones who have already calculated how to kill you before you finish speaking. No, said finally. Let her go. We will see what she is made of soon enough. The barracks were filled with recruits from dozens of species. When entered, all conversation stopped. 62 pairs of eyes turned to look at the small human walking through the door. A group of recruits clicked their mandibles nervously. They were creatures, covered in hard shells, standing over 2 meters tall on 6 legs. Next to them, several floated in the air. They were gaseous beings, their bodies made of swirling colored mist. In the corner, 3 stood together. They were made of living crystal, their bodies catching the light and throwing rainbows across the walls. Found her assigned bunk and set down her bag. The bunk next to hers was occupied by a young whose mist was flickering rapidly between blue and yellow. "Hello," said. The drifted backward in surprise. You speak to me." "Yes, my name is, what is yours?" "I am called," this colors shifted to a calmer green. "You are human, yes, from the..." Sat on her bunk and began unpacking her bag. "Earth, yes." "I have read about your world," said, drifting closer. His voice was like wind through leaves. "Is it true that you evolved alongside predators, creatures that hunted your ancestors for food?" Smiled. It was a small smile, but it showed her teeth. Immediately floated backward several meters. "Why do you show your bone protrusions?" he asked fearfully. "Is that a threat display?" "No, it is called smiling. Humans do it when they are happy or amused," tilted her head. "And to answer your question, yes, there were predators. Lions, tigers, wolves, sharks, many creatures that could kill a human easily." "How did your species survive?" Smile grew slightly wider. "We killed them first, or we tamed them and made them our pets. On Earth, we are not the prey, we are the predators." Form flickered through several colors too fast to identify. He did not know what to say. Across the barracks, other recruits had been listening. They clicked among themselves in their own language. They chimed softly. Even recruits from other species turned to whisper to each other. The small human had said something that would spread through the entire academy by morning. "We are the predators." That night reviewed the day's reports in his office. He pulled up his file and read it again. She had graduated top of her class in basic training on Earth. She had survived something called wilderness survival training in a place called Siberia. She spoke 4 languages fluently. She had a black belt in 3 different martial arts. But what caught his attention most was a note at the bottom of her file, written by her commanding officer on Earth. "Recruit does not know how to quit. She does not understand the concept of giving up. Use this carefully. It is both her greatest strength and her greatest danger." Closed the file and stared at the wall for a long time. Tomorrow, the real training would begin. He would see if this small human was as special as her file suggested, or if she would break like all the others. Something in his gut told him that the answer would surprise him. The morning sun was artificial on orbital station Harmony. Giant lights in the ceiling slowly brightened to simulate a sunrise. But the light did nothing to warm the cold feeling in the stomachs of 63 recruits standing at attention on the training field. Sergeant walked slowly in front of them. His 4 arms were clasped behind his back. His silver scales seemed to glow in the artificial dawn. "Today you will face the obstacle course," he announced. His voice was loud enough to reach every corner of the field. "This course was designed by the greatest military minds in the coalition. It has broken recruits from every species. Some of you will complete it. Most of you will fail." He stopped walking and turned to face them directly. "You have 3 hours. Anyone who does not complete the course will spend the next month cleaning waste recyclers. Begin on my signal." Stood in the middle of the group. She had already studied the course from her barracks window last night. She had watched other training groups attempt it. She had counted the obstacles and measured the distances with her eyes. The course was brutal. It started with a field of acid pools. The acid would not kill, but it would burn badly and leave scars. Between the pools were small platforms, barely wide enough for a single foot. After the acid came the gravity wells. These were areas where artificial gravity was increased 10 times normal. Most species would be pinned to the ground, unable to move. Then came the sonic disruptors, high-frequency sound waves that caused pain and confusion. Finally, there was the tower. 200 meters tall, with climbing holds that delivered electric shocks strong enough to make muscles freeze. Floated beside his gaseous form flickering with anxiety. "Human," he whispered, "I am very frightened." "Good," said quietly. "Fear keeps you sharp, use it." "How can you be so calm?" Did not answer. The truth was simple. She had grown up on Earth. She had trained in mountains where the air was so thin that her lungs screamed for oxygen. She had run through forests where wild animals could attack at any moment. She had survived her planet's attempts to kill her every single day of her life. This obstacle course was difficult, but it was not Earth. The horn sounded. 63 recruits surged forward. They used their 6 legs to scuttle quickly toward the acid pools. They moved slower, their crystal bodies heavy but strong. They floated above, trying to drift over the obstacles. Did not run with the crowd. She waited 3 seconds, watching the chaos ahead. She saw where the other recruits were making mistakes. She saw the patterns in the acid pools, the safe paths between them. Then she moved. Watched through his scope from the observation tower. He had seen thousands of recruits attempt this course. He knew exactly how long each section should take for each species. Humans, with their fragile bodies and average strength, typically needed 2.5 hours to complete the course, if they completed it at all. The human female was moving wrong. She was not being careful. She was not testing each platform before stepping on it. She was simply running. No, not running. Flowing. Her body twisted and turned through the acid pools like water finding the fastest path downhill. "Sir," said beside him, "are you seeing this?" "I see it," muttered. Cleared the acid pools in 4 minutes. The fastest previous time was 11 minutes, set by a with 6 legs. The gravity wells came next. Watched 3 recruits collapse immediately, their crystal bodies cracking under the pressure. They would need medical attention. A recruit was pinned on her back, legs kicking uselessly. Entered the gravity well zone and immediately dropped to her hands and knees. But she did not stop. She crawled forward with grim determination. Her muscles strained against gravity that wanted to crush her into the ground. Sweat poured down her face. Her arms shook violently. But she did not stop. Realized he was holding his breath. He forced himself to exhale. In the gravity wells, his mind went to a quiet place. She remembered her training on Earth. She remembered carrying heavy packs through mountain passes. She remembered doing push-ups until her arms felt like they would fall off, and then doing 50 more because her instructor demanded it. She remembered the words her father had told her before she left for space. "Gravity is just the planet hugging you. Hug it back harder." She crawled out of the gravity wells covered in sweat and breathing heavily, but she did not rest. She stood up and walked toward the sonic disruptors. The sound hit her like a physical wall. High-pitched screaming filled her skull. Her vision blurred. Her balance disappeared. All around her, other recruits were falling to the ground, clutching their heads, crying out in pain. Kept walking. On Earth, humans had invented something called heavy metal music. It was loud and aggressive and could cause permanent hearing damage. Had listened to it constantly during her training, building up her tolerance to painful sounds. The sonic disruptors were unpleasant, but they were not at full volume through broken headphones. She passed through the disruptor field in 2 minutes. Now only the tower remained. Looked up at the 200 meters of metal and electricity above her. She could see the climbing holds glowing slightly with stored charge. She knew that touching them would send electricity through her body. She knew that her muscles would freeze and spasm. She knew it would hurt more than anything she had experienced before. She began to climb. The first shock made her gasp. The second made her grunt. By the 10th shock, she had stopped making sounds. Her face was a mask of concentration. Her hands were burning, the electricity leaving black marks on her palms. Her muscles screamed with every movement. But she did not let go, she did not fall, she did not stop. On the observation tower, watched in complete silence. Beside him had forgotten to breathe. Reached the top of the tower 47 minutes after the horn had sounded. She touched the finish marker and stood for a moment, looking out over the training field below. Then she began climbing down. "Sir," finally managed to say. She just broke the academy record by over an hour. Said nothing. He was watching the human descend the tower. Her hands were badly burned. Her body was shaking with exhaustion. Any other recruit would have called for medical transport. Instead, the human reached the bottom and immediately began jogging back toward the acid pools. "What is she doing?" asked. Zoomed in with his scope. Near the acid pools, a young recruit named Tika had frozen on one of the platforms. She was too afraid to move forward, too afraid to move back. Acid bubbled on both sides of her. Reached the edge of the pools and called out, "Tika, look at me." The turned her head, compound eyes wide with terror. "I am coming to you," said calmly. "Do not move, just breathe." Watched the human navigate back through the acid pools, moving carefully this time, until she reached the stranded recruit. Spoke to her quietly, too soft for the microphones to pick up. Then, slowly, she guided Tika from platform to platform until they were both safely on the other side. Only then did sit down. Only then did she look at her burned hands. Only then did she allow herself to feel the pain. Lowered his scope and stood quietly for a long moment. "Sir," asked, "what are your orders?" The sergeant turned and walked toward the stairs. "Call medical for the injured and add a note to recruit's file." "What note, sir?" Paused at the door. "Leadership potential exceptional." Then he walked out, leaving staring after him in surprise. In 40 years, Sergeant had never used that word to describe any recruit. Exceptional. 3 weeks passed on orbital station Harmony. The 63 recruits had become 54. 9 had failed or quit. The ones who remained were harder now, stronger, more confident. But none had changed as much as the members of Squad 7. On the first day had divided the recruits into squads of 6. He had put in charge of Squad 7. It was not a reward. Squad 7 was where he put the failures. The recruits who were too weak, too scared, too broken to succeed. He wanted to see what the human would do with them. He expected her to demand a transfer. He expected her to complain about her teammates. He expected her to fail. He was wrong. Squad 7 gathered in the corner of the barracks every night after training, sat on the floor with her squad around her, and she taught them. First was the nervous. His gaseous form was perfect for infiltration. He could seep through cracks and vents that solid beings could not enter, but he was too afraid to use his abilities. "Fear is a tool," told him one night. "It tells you where the danger is, but you decide what to do with that information. You can run from danger, or you can move through it." She made him practice entering small spaces, ventilation shafts, maintenance tunnels, sealed rooms. At first, panicked every time. But slowly, with patience and encouragement, he learned to control his fear. He learned that he could go anywhere, see anything, and return without being detected. Next was Tika, the who had frozen on the acid pools. Her body was covered in a hard shell that could turn invisible in low light. It was a natural camouflage that most never learned to use properly. Tika was terrified of everything. The acid pools had broken something inside her. "You froze because you thought you were alone," said to her. "You are not alone anymore. You have a squad. You have me. When you are afraid, remember that we are with you." Trained Tika in the dark sections of the station. She taught her to move silently, to use her camouflage, to become invisible. Tika discovered that she was very good at hiding. She was very good at watching. And knowing that her squad was always nearby gave her the courage to keep going. Then there was Bora. His crystalline body was massive and powerful. A single blow from his fist could shatter metal, but Bora was gentle. He did not like violence. He flinched at loud noises and cried when other recruits were hurt. "Strength is not about hurting others," told him. "Strength is about protecting them. You do not have to enjoy fighting, Bora, but sometimes fighting is necessary to protect the people you love." Bora thought about this for a long time. He decided that he could fight if it meant protecting his squad. He practiced his strikes until he could hit with perfect precision. He learned that his size could be a shield for others, not just a weapon. Finally, there were the twins, and they were young, the same species as Sergeant, but where was disciplined and proud and were troublemakers. They had been caught stealing food from the kitchen. They had been caught sneaking into restricted areas. They had been caught lying to instructors. They were on their final warning before expulsion. "Why do you steal?" asked them one night. The twins looked at each other, answered first, "Because we were hungry." "And why do you sneak into restricted areas?" Shrugged, "Because we were curious." Nodded slowly. "You have been using your skills for selfish reasons, but those same skills could be very useful for the right reasons. You know every hidden passage in this station. You know how to move without being seen. You know how to get into places others cannot reach." She leaned forward. "What if you used those skills to help your squad instead of just yourselves?" The twins had never thought of it that way. They had always been outsiders looking out for only each other, but offered them something different. She offered them a family. Now, 3 weeks later, Squad 7 was unrecognizable. Sergeant announced the next test during morning assembly. "Today we will have simulated combat exercises. Squad versus squad. Non-lethal rounds. The first squad to neutralize all members of the opposing team wins." He paused and let his gaze sweep across the recruits. "Squad 7 will face Squad 1. A murmur went through the crowd. Squad 1 was the elite team. They were led by a decorated who had never lost a match at the academy. His squad was made of the strongest, fastest, most skilled recruits from every species. Squad 7 was made of failures. Tikka's mandibles clicked with anxiety. "This is not fair. They are trying to humiliate us." "Perhaps," said calmly, "or perhaps they are giving us an opportunity." Bora's crystal body dimmed with worry. An opportunity for what? "To show everyone what we are capable of," gathered her squad close. "Listen to me, all of you. They expect us to lose. That expectation is their weakness." Form stabilized. "What do you mean?" "They will underestimate us. They will be overconfident. They will make mistakes." Looked at each member of her squad in turn. "And we will be ready." She pulled out a small map of the combat zone. "You will enter through the ventilation system here. Disable their communications first. Without communication, they cannot coordinate." Nodded, his colors shifting to a determined purple. "Tikka, you will hide in the shadows near their approach route. When their scouts pass you, take them out from behind. Use your camouflage. They will never see you coming." Tikka straightened slightly. For the first time in weeks, she did not look afraid. She looked ready. "Bora, you will guard this. Let them hit you. Absorb their fire. And when they think they have you beaten, show them what it can really do." Bora's crystal body brightened with inner light. "I understand." Turned to the twins. "You know every hidden passage in this station. I need you to find a way into their command position from above. Can you do it?" The twins grinned identical grins. "We have been waiting for someone to ask us that," said. "We know exactly where to go," added. Smiled, it was a fierce smile, full of teeth and determination. "They think this will be easy. They think we are weak. They think we will break." She stood up and looked at her squad, her family. "Today, we show them what Squad 7 is made of. Today, we show them what happens when you underestimate the broken ones." Pulsed with bright blue light. "What are we made of?" Picked up her training weapon and checked its charge. "We are made of everyone who told us we could not succeed. We are made of every failure, every fear, every moment when we wanted to quit but did not. We are made of second chances and stubborn refusal to die." She looked toward the combat zone, where Squad 1 was already gathering with confident smiles. "Today, we teach them a lesson they will never forget." Combat zone was a maze of corridors, rooms, and vertical shafts spread across 3 levels of the station. It had been designed to test every type of combat skill. There were open areas for direct fighting, narrow passages for ambushes, and complex structures for tactical maneuvering. Squad 1 entered from the east side with complete confidence. Their leader walked at the front. His silver scales gleamed under the harsh lights. Behind him came his team, two massive warriors, a sniper with perfect accuracy, and two scouts who could detect movement through walls. Standard formation, ordered through their communication system. Scouts forward, heavy support behind. We sweep room by room until we find them. This should take no more than 30 minutes. He had reviewed Squad 7's records before the match. A human leader with no command experience. A coward who panicked under pressure. A who had frozen during basic training. A who was afraid of fighting. And two criminals who could not follow simple orders. It would be a slaughter. His scouts moved ahead, floating through the corridors with their senses spread wide. They were looking for movement, heat signatures, any sign of the enemy. They did not notice the air vent above them slowly open. They did not see the gaseous form that drifted down from the ceiling. By the time they realized something was wrong, had already surrounded their communication hub. His body flowed into the electronics, disrupting signals, scrambling frequencies. Squad 1's communication system died with a soft crackle. Report, said into his communicator. Static. Scouts report. Nothing. He turned to his team. Communications are down. Stay together. Move carefully. But they were no longer together. His scouts had pushed too far ahead. His warriors were still at the back. And somewhere in the darkness between them, something was hunting. Tikka waited in the shadows. Her carapace had shifted to match the exact color and texture of the wall behind her. She was invisible. She was patient. She was no longer afraid. The two scouts drifted past her hiding spot. They were searching for her teammates, using their senses to probe every corner. They did not think to look directly at the wall beside them. Tikka struck like lightning. Two precise shots from her training weapon hit the scouts in their vulnerable areas. They flickered and faded as the non-lethal rounds registered their elimination. 2 down, 4 to go. Heard the shots and spun around. His scouts were gone, eliminated in seconds by enemies they never saw. Fall back to the central chamber, he ordered. We regroup and... More shots echoed through the corridor. He turned to see his sniper stumbling backward, hit by fire coming from an impossible angle. The shots had come from above, through a maintenance hatch that should have been sealed. Dropped from the ceiling behind the sniper, landing silently on her feet. Appeared from a side passage that did not show on any official map. The twins moved together, covering each other, eliminating the sniper before she could react. 3 down. Was running now, his two warriors beside him. They crashed into the central chamber, a large room with multiple entrances and plenty of cover. It was a defensible position. They could make a stand here. Then they saw Bora. The Massive stood in the center of the room, his crystal body glowing with inner fire. He did not move. He did not speak. He simply waited. Open fire, commanded. His warriors raised their weapons and unleashed a barrage of non-lethal rounds. The shots hit Bora's crystalline form and scattered in all directions. They absorbed the impacts without flinching. His body was designed to withstand tremendous force. Training rounds felt like gentle rain. The warriors kept firing. Their weapons began to overheat. Their ammunition began to run low. And still Bora stood. Enough, Bora said quietly. His voice was like stones grinding together. He moved, 1 step, 2 steps. His fist swung in a wide arc that seemed slow but was impossible to dodge. The first warrior tried to block. His arm shattered on impact, crystal fragments spraying across the floor. The second warrior tried to run. Bora caught him with a backhand that sent him flying into the wall. Both warriors flickered and faded, eliminated. Now only remained. He backed into a corner, weapon raised. His scales had lost their confident shine. His 4 hands were trembling slightly. Where is she? He demanded. Where is the human? Behind you, said a calm voice. spun around, stood in the doorway, her weapon lowered at her side. She had not fired a single shot. She had not needed to. "This is over," said, raising his weapon. "I may be the last one, but I can still eliminate you." "Did not move. You could, but you will not. You sound very confident for someone who is about to lose." Above them, a ceiling panel shifted silently. Did not hear it. He was too focused on the human in front of him. "I know something you do not know," said. "What is that?" "I know where my teammates are." And dropped from the ceiling behind. Their weapons fired twice. The squad leader flickered and faded before he could pull his trigger. The station's announcement system activated with a pleasant chime. "Match complete. Squad 7 victory. Time, 8 minutes 43 seconds. In the observation room, Sergeant stood in absolute silence. Around him, instructors and senior officers stared at the displays showing the match replay. None of them could believe what they had just witnessed. Squad 1, the Academy's elite team, had been destroyed in less than 9 minutes by a group of failures led by a small human from A. Walked down to the combat zone. He found helping Tika check her weapon while and Bora congratulated the twins on their perfect ambush. They looked like a real team. They looked like soldiers. "Recruit YUNA." The human turned and stood at attention. Her squad immediately formed up beside her. Walked toward them slowly. His forearms were clenched into fists. His scales had darkened with anger. "That was reckless," he growled. "That was dangerous. 3 members of Squad 1 are in medical. You treated this exercise like actual combat." "Yes, sir. This is training, not a war." The silence that followed was heavy. Every recruit in the area had stopped to watch. Even the eliminated members of Squad 1 were staring from the sidelines. Met's eyes without flinching. "You are wrong, sir." More silence. No one had ever told Sergeant he was wrong. No one had ever dared. "Explain," said in a voice like ice. "Every moment is preparation for the moment that matters." His voice was steady and clear. "On my world, the soldiers who trained like it was just practice died first. The soldiers who trained like their lives depended on it came home to their families." She gestured to her squad beside her. "These people trusted me. They put their faith in me. I was not going to let them fail because I held back. I was not going to let them be humiliated because I treated this like a game." She took a step forward, looking up at the massive sergeant. "Sir, with respect, every training exercise is preparation for real combat. If we do not learn to fight with everything we have now, we will die when it matters. And I refuse to let my squad die because they were not ready." Stared at her for a long moment. Around them, the other recruits held their breath. Then slowly turned to face the entire assembly. "Let this be a lesson to all of you," he said. His voice carried across the training field. "The human is correct. We train as though our lives depend on it because someday they will. Someday the enemy will not use non-lethal rounds. Someday there will be no reset button. Someday your training will be the only thing between you and death." He turned back to her squad. "Squad 7, you performed exceptionally today. Report to barracks for rest." As led her squad away, watched them go. For the first time in 40 years, he felt something he had forgotten was possible. Hope for the future. 6 months had passed since the legendary match between Squad 7 and Squad 1. The story had spread through the entire Galactic Coalition Academy. Recruits whispered about the human who had led a team of failures to victory in less than 9 minutes. Instructors used the match as a teaching example. Even officers from other stations requested copies of the recording. Squad 7 had become the most respected unit in the academy, had mastered his infiltration abilities. Tika had become the top scout in her class. Bora had learned to use his strength with precision and purpose, and had been offered positions in coalition intelligence after graduation, and had been promoted to squad leader officially, with a recommendation for officer training. But war does not wait for graduation ceremonies. The attack came at 3:47 hours when most of the station was asleep. The Collective, a faction of cybernetic raiders who rejected the Coalition's laws, tore through the station's outer defenses with surgical precision. They had been watching, planning, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Woke to the sound of explosions. Red emergency lights filled the barracks. Alarms screamed through the corridors. The entire station shook as another blast hit somewhere nearby. She was on her feet before her eyes were fully open. Training had made certain reflexes automatic. Her hands found her boots, her jacket, her weapon. She was dressed and armed in less than 30 seconds. Around her, the barracks was chaos. Recruits stumbled out of their bunks, confused and frightened. Some were crying. Some were frozen in place. Some were running in random directions without purpose. Squad 7 ONME. Her voice cut through the panic like a blade. Materialized beside her instantly, his form no longer flickering with fear but solid with determination. Tika emerged from the shadows near the door, already in combat mode. Bora pushed through the crowd, his crystal body glowing with inner fire, and dropped from the ceiling where they had been sleeping in a hidden alcove. Her squad formed up around her in seconds. They did not need to be told what to do. They had trained for this. "What is happening?" a young recruit asked, his voice shaking. "The station is under attack," said. "Stay here. Lock the doors. Do not let anyone in unless they give the correct security code." "Where are you going?" Checked her weapon and looked at her squad. They looked back at her with absolute trust. These were no longer the broken recruits who had been assigned to her 6 months ago. These were soldiers, her soldiers. "We are going to fight." The corridors of Orbital Station Harmony had become a. Bodies lay on the floor, some instructors, some recruits, some wearing the strange cybernetic armor of the raiders. The emergency lighting cast everything in harsh red shadows. The sound of gunfire echoed from multiple directions. Squad 7 moved through the chaos like ghosts. Led from the front, her weapon up, her eyes constantly scanning. Behind her, her squad covered every angle, every corner, every shadow. They found Sergeant in the command center corridor. He was wounded, one of his 4 arms hanging limp at his side. 3 raiders lay dead around him, but more were coming, their mechanical footsteps echoing through the passage. "Sergeant," called out as her squad took up defensive positions around him. Looked up. For a moment, something like relief flickered across his scaled face. "Recruit, you should not be here. This is not a training exercise." "No, sir, this is real," crouched beside him and checked his wound. It was serious but not fatal. "Can you move?" "I can fight." "Then fight with us." More rounded the corner. There were 6 of them, their bodies half machine and half organic, their weapons integrated into their arms. They saw the group of recruits and raised their guns. "Contact front," Tika shouted, opening fire from a shadowed corner they had not noticed her in. Flowed through a ventilation grate behind the enemies and disrupted their targeting systems with his gaseous form. Their shots went wild, hitting walls and ceiling instead of their targets. Bora charged forward, crystal body, absorbing the few shots that found their mark. He hit the first with a punch that crumpled its cybernetic armor like paper. The second tried to run. Bora caught it by the leg and threw it into the third, and appeared from side passages, flanking the remaining enemies. Their shots were precise and deadly. In seconds, all 6 were down. "Clear," announced. Stared at the squad that had just saved his life. These were the failures he had assigned to the humans 6 months ago. The coward, the broken one, the gentle giant, the criminals, and a small human from a. "You trained them well," he said quietly. "They trained themselves," replied. "I just showed them what they were capable of." The station shook again. A massive explosion somewhere in the lower levels sent tremors through the floor. "The reactor," said grimly. "They are trying to destroy the station." Stood and addressed her squad. "I need you to reach the reactor through the ventilation system. Find out how many enemies are there and report back." Nodded and flowed into the nearest vent without hesitation. "Tika, take position near the reactor access corridor. When we move, you cover our approach." Tika clicked her mandibles in acknowledgement and vanished into the shadows. "Bara, you are with me. We go through the front." This body blazed with inner light. "I am ready." "Find another way in. You always do." The twins grinned and disappeared down a side passage. "Looked at, can you coordinate the other squads? We need to hold the station while we deal with the reactor." For a moment the old sergeant simply looked at her. Then he nodded slowly. "It seems you have already become an officer, recruit, even if you do not have the rank yet." "Rank does not matter right now. Survival does." Stood wincing as his wounded arm protested. "Then let us survive." The reactor room was swarming with. They had set charges around the core, enough explosives to tear the station apart and kill everyone aboard. His report had counted 15 enemies, all heavily armed, all cybernetically enhanced. "Did not hesitate. Disable their communications on my signal. Tika, take out the ones near the door. Bara, we punch through the center. The charges are your priority. Disable as many as you can." She took a deep breath. On Earth, humans had a tradition before battle. They did not pray for victory. They did not pray for safety. They prayed for the courage to do what needed to be done. "For Squad 7, she said quietly. "For Squad 7, her squad responded. "Now." The attack was beautiful in its chaos. Flooded the room with his gaseous form, blinding sensors and scrambling communications. Tika opened fire from the doorway, dropping 3 before they knew they were under attack. Bora crashed through the center of the room like a crystalline avalanche, scattering enemies in all directions, and appeared among the explosive charges, their quick fingers disabling one after another. And moved through it all like a force of nature. She fired, she dodged, she struck. She did not stop moving, did not stop fighting, did not stop pushing forward. They did not know what hit them. They had expected frightened recruits and wounded instructors. They had expected easy prey. They had never fought a species before. When it was over, stood in the center of the reactor room surrounded by the bodies of 15 raiders. Her squad gathered around her, battered and exhausted but alive. All of them alive. "Charges disabled," reported, breathing heavily. "Reactor secure," added. "All enemies eliminated," Bora said, his light slowly dimming to normal levels. Tika emerged from the shadows, reformed beside, his colors a satisfied purple. Looked at her squad, her family, and smiled. "We did it." The cleanup took days. The attack had killed many good soldiers, including instructors who had trained in her squad, but the station survived. The recruits survived. The academy would continue. At the memorial ceremony for the fallen, Sergeant stood before the assembled survivors. "Today we honor those who gave their lives to defend this station. They were soldiers, they were teachers, they were friends." He paused, his 4 arms clasped behind his back. "And today we also honor those who turned the tide of battle, who refused to hide when they could fight, who showed us what true soldiers look like." He turned and looked at Squad 7, standing at attention in the front row. "I once told recruit that training is not war. She told me I was wrong. I did not understand then. I understand now." Straightened to his full height. "Training is preparation for the moment that matters, and when that moment came, Squad 7 was ready." He raised his hand in a formal salute. "On behalf of the Galactic Coalition Academy, I recommend Squad 7 for immediate field commission. They have proven themselves in combat. They have earned the right to be called soldiers." The assembled survivors erupted in applause, but did not hear it. She was looking at her squad, Tika, Bora, and remembering the frightened, broken recruits they had been 6 months ago. They had come so far, all of them. After the ceremony, floated beside her as they walked back to the barracks. He said softly, "On the first day you told me that on Earth humans are the predators. I remember. I think I understand now what you meant." His form shifted to a warm gold color. "It is not about being strong or fast or deadly. It is about never giving up, never stopping, never accepting defeat." Nodded slowly. "That is the human way. We are not the biggest. We are not the strongest, but we do not quit. We do not break. We do not surrender." She looked up at the stars visible through the station's viewport. "And anyone who threatens the people we love learns that lesson the hard way." Was silent for a moment. Then, in a voice filled with something that sounded very much like pride, he said, "I am honored to serve with a species." Smiled and put her hand on his gaseous form. It tingled slightly, like static electricity. "And I am honored to serve with you, all of you. We are Squad 7, and together there is nothing we cannot face." Above them, the stars continued to shine. And somewhere in the galaxy, stories were already spreading about the human from Earth who had led a squad of failures to victory against impossible odds. The stories would grow, the legends would spread, and other species would learn what they had learned too late. Never underestimate a species. Especially the humans.